What's good, you guys? As you can tell by the title of this video, comparing Transformers Generations lines in the last couple years. So let's talk about Legacy Year 1 compared to Age of the Primes Year 1 of this year so far. And I gotta say, guys, the lineup with Age of the Primes and just the overall figures and quality of them that we've been getting, I think this is better than Year 1 of Legacy. I'm gonna just say it straight up. I thoroughly, truly believe this, and I'm gonna explain why in this video. So I guess, I don't know, let's kind of just delve into some of these releases and comparing the two. I guess let's go by size class. So let's start off with Legacy Year 1, Core Class, I guess, but you know what? I'm not going to do Core Class, considering Core Class got canceled for Age of the Primes. Let's go on to Deluxe Class here. So for Legacy Year 1, you had Cosmos, which was way too hard to find and a Walmart exclusive. Minerva, another one of those weird Walgreens exclusives that were kind of hard to get. Night Prowler, it warmed the pegs and it was an incorrect repaint. They didn't even get the color scheme right. Point Blank was a terrible new mold of a deluxe class for today's standards, missing a lot of key engineering and articulation points that you would get. Silver Streak, just a lazy blue streak repaint. Skids, that body mold is absolutely horrible. Hasbro needs to stop using it. Just the head sculpt alone tells everything you need to know about this body mold. It is horrible. Kind of a lazy IDW Blur remold. The Beast Wars Buzzsaw was a cool repaint. I do have that figure, but again, it warmed the shelves. Crankcase, it's based off of that Skids mold, so it sucks. Crasher, actually a clever repaint. I think this wears the mold better than that crappy Kingdom Mirage figure we got a couple years ago because, you know, you're not able to mount the rocket launcher on this mold for whatever reason. And so I just think it suits Crasher in that regard better. Burnout, another crappy Skids repaint. Clamp Down, a crappy repaint from the Red Alert mold, which I don't really think is a good mold to begin with. Twin Twist, it's a repaint of Diaclone colors that nobody asked for. I'm pretty sure everybody just wanted a repaint or a re-release of the Titans Return figure. DK2 Guard, I'm still confused on why they chose that name and why this is even released to begin with. Breaker, again, another Diaclone repaint nobody asked for. Alita 1, I'm still not entirely sure what they were going for here. It's like G1, but different. I don't know. I don't really care about Alita 1. And then the Pterosaur repaint, you know, the Beast Wars toy colors, kind of cool, but not really necessary. Road Rocket, cool repaint, but, you know, it's not really the most ideal body mold. It was obviously meant for Prime RC, but G1ified. G2 Shadow Strip, cool repaint. Kickback, kind of a mediocre deluxe, doesn't really do anything special, but it's not bad either. Lift Ticket, I think that's another one of those Diaclone repaints that nobody asked for. Predacon Sandstorm, pretty cool. We're getting actual convention exclusives from back in the day in the main line, but again, it's shelf warmed. Tarantulas, probably the best deluxe class we got in Legacy Year 1. Prime Universe RC, pretty terrible. Don't really think I need to go into that. Knockout, crappy retool and repaint from SS86 Jazz. Red Cog, cool little weapons pack, but not really necessary as a release. And Skullgrin, kind of one of those lazy pretender releases yet again. And then you compare it to Deluxe Class with Age of the Primes. You got the aerial bots, which all things considered are actually really fun deluxes from what I've seen in terms of the engineering and the robot modes and everything. And then you got the Combaticons with Blastoff and Vortex, really much needed updates that are actually really well done in terms of getting that G1 accuracy. You know, nothing perfect, but it is still really nice. And then you got, I think, one of the only L's of Age of the Prime so far is canceling the Cybertron subline halfway through. So you got Excellion and Sideways, which they're nothing too crazy in terms of deluxe molds, but they are still really nice. And then you have Animated Waspinator finally getting, or Wasp, I should say, finally getting a mainline release. We had that canceled figure years ago, and now we actually have one. It is in that G1-ified mold, and it is a bit too small, kinda, but it's still really nice to get that. You got my Cronus Prime, Solus Prime, which are just really fun, well done deluxe class molds, especially for the 13 primes. A lot of nice sculpted detail and paint, and the articulation and the engineering seems to be pretty good for what it is. So yeah, deluxe class overall just seems a lot more tight knit and a bit more in terms of what people are asking for in terms of character redos and everything. So I think Age of the Primes wins out with deluxe class. Now let's take a look at Voyager class. Let's start off with Legacy again. Armada Starscream, pretty good mold in terms of the engineering, but the overall kind of look and the paint lacking really sucks, and his accessories are super terrible. Blaster, recover from Kingdom, but it's still a pretty good figure for what it is. I'm pretty sure we're going to be getting a new one though at some point soon. Springer, one of those pointless repaints. Override, actually really well done, but I think is a little bit overpriced for a Voyager class, but I think that's because she's an exclusive and they didn't have enough budget for it, so they kind of had to up it to a Voyager. Cyclonus, another one of those, I mean, it's a toy accurate repaint, so it's nothing bad, but another one of those releases that's kind of just eh. Jaxus, actually, a really great figure, even though he has yellowing. But, you know, the yellowing and the clear plastic midsection kind of bring it down for me. And I think, honestly, he should have been a leader class if I'm just keeping it real. Uncooked chicken Dinobot repaint, which is cool to get. It's kind of like that, I think it was a toy accurate color scheme or something like that. But, again, it's not really something people cared about too much. Inferno, probably the best Voyager class mold in Legacy Year 1. It is fantastic. Even though he's missing his proper gun, he's still got his thruster butt cannon thing, which that's about the worst thing with that figure. And then you got Bulkhead. It's a crime they labeled him as Prime Universe. It was a terrible design in terms of referencing his Prime look. They should have just named him Bulkhead. That was a big mistake. And then you got the repaint, which is like a Bayverse reference with Age of Extinction Hound. That was actually a really good release. I think that was a bit better. Road Hauler, again, some D-list G1 repaint that no one asked for. And Soundwave, kind of a weird Siege re-release that I don't think a lot of people were clamoring for, because the Siege release at that time wasn't hard to get at all. So, yeah, I mean, Voyager class as a whole was, again, lacking. And I think the standouts here were the Bulkhead repaint, Inferno, Override, and Jaxus, and to a lesser extent Starscream as well. And then you go to Age of the Primes here. Red Alert, Brawl, Flatline, Heatwave, Skybite, Alpha Trion, Prima. And, you know, these are just figures that just feel a lot more tight-knit again, and characters overall that people have just been asking for a while. Armada Red Alert is actually really well done. The Flatline repaint is cool. Heatwave, an actual clever retool and G1-ified look of that original line continuity design, done a lot better than that crappy Bulkhead. Skybite, I prefer the original release, but he does have some nice articulation, and he's still a really well done figure for today's standards. Alpha Trion, the redesign they did with him was actually really fun. Prima, really well done. Seems like a nice, substantial Voyager class for today's standards. Just overall, a bit better in terms of how they handled, I think, the engineering and how they brought these characters to life. And now, let's look at some leader class stuff here. For Legacy 2022, Blitzwing, actually a decent figure, but I think they were kind of pushing it with the accessories to make him a leader class. I think they could have done a bit better with that. And he did shell for him because ultimately people just didn't really care that much, and he was kind of just a figure thrusted into leader class. And then you got Galvatron, which I think really isn't that great of a mold. Hopefully we get a new one at some point soon that is a bit better looking and a bit more accurate in terms of the details. Laser Optimus Prime, that's one of the worst Optimus molds, I think, in the last few years. The way they handled that robot mode and the proportions and the articulation is horrible. I think the only saving grace about this release is the little Bayverse reference in the paint of the truck mode, giving him the red flames instead of that fading red into black like the original G2 figure. I think that was the only saving grace about that mold. I think that looks pretty great, actually. R80 2001 Scourge, I still don't understand how they messed up on the colors with this guy, and it's based off of that crappy mold, so get the hell out of here. The only thing that I'll tolerate from this Optimus mold is the Toxitron, because when are we going to get another Toxitron? And the previous ones, they were exclusives or canceled figures, so good luck getting those. So the only one that I really care about is Toxitron. And then you got Transmetal 2 Megatron, which I think is the best leader class release here. Really well done, despite his head sculpt being a bit inaccurate. I think this is probably the best leader class mold we have here. And then you got Galaxy Shuttle, which is kind of like a half-assed repaint from Siege Astro Train. I think Galaxy Shuttle should have been a new mold. It's really inaccurate to how the character design looks. So that's kind of an overhyped nothing burger to me. But then you look at leader class with Age of the Primes, G2 Universe Grimlock. Again, I'm kind of sick of the G1, G2 repaints, but it's a really well done mold, and the repaint is actually really cool. You got the Fallen, which is one of the greatest leader class molds in modern generations, and people have been asking for that figure for so many years now, and the fact we have it is really surprising and crazy. And you have Onyx Prime, which is a nice, substantial, hefty leader class for today's standards, and the overall design and the engineering of him and the play factor is really sick to see. Like, he seems like a fun figure to have in hand. So overall, I mean, again, it's just a lot more tight-knit in terms of the leader class releases, and they're characters that people have been wanting to see, and it's kind of like living out your wildest dreams in terms of getting actual official Hasbro Transformers releases. And now the last size class I want to cover here in terms of comparing is Titan class. So you had, I'm not going to talk about Victory Saber, but it is in that price point, but it's a HasLab. I'm not going to talk about it. You got Metroplex and Black Zarek. I think Metroplex, I have him. He's a really well done figure. But for the price, he should have came with his minicon. I think he was a bit overpriced despite him being a good figure, which is why he's at a discount for half the price basically everywhere still 3 years later, I'm pretty sure. And then Black Zarek, it's done from one of the greatest Titan class molds ever, Scorponok, so he's got that going for him. But I don't know, it's one of those Japanese G1 releases that people want, but I think they could have done something a bit different. I don't know, it's just not really something I personally care about. But then you got Titan class for this year. You got Trypticon and Star Convoy. Star Convoy, the play factor and accessories with him is just so fun. The engineering with him looks so nice, and the design is pretty dope. And overall, you know, he's cheaper than the Metroplex. I think the Metroplex should have been $150 as well if he wasn't going to come with his minicon. It just seems like things aren't really adding up in terms of the engineering and what you got for that Metroplex and what you're getting here with Star Convoy. So overall, I think he's actually a better release, despite me personally preferring the Cybertron Metroplex character in his design. And then in terms of the repaint, you got Trypticon, which is frankly a much more hyped up and much more needed re-release and repaint than freaking Black Zarek, kind of a D-list Japanese G1 character. And he's redone in more of an accurate color scheme. And overall, he's actually a better release than the Titans Return one you got, 8-9 years ago. So that is actually a better repaint than freaking Black Zarek. So overall, guys, just comparing everything from Titan class, Leader class, Voyager, Deluxe class, Age of the Primes just seems like, if I had to sum everything up, more of a tight-knit Generations line of a bit better engineered characters, of releases in robots that people have been asking for many years. Not to say there's a ton of releases from Legacy that people have been asking for, but you know, you had the Stunticons, you had a bunch of lazy repaints that no one cared about. You don't really get that here with Age of the Primes. It's a lot more fixated on what people have been asking for a long time. But yeah, guys, let me know down in the comments below. How do y'all feel about Legacy Year 1 and Age of the Primes Year 1? Do you think one is better than the other, or do you not? And yeah, guys, thank you for watching this video. Catch y'all in the next one. Bye.